Okay, Jai Baba, it's August 7th, 1996. This is the Lord Meher Wednesday night meeting at the Avatar Meher Baba Center of Southern California. And we're reading from Volume 1, Lord Meher by Bao Kalchuri. This covers the years 1894 to 1922. We're on page 282. During this period, Merwan Seth, younger brother JAL, did not believe in his elder brother's spiritual attainment and dismissed Merog as being insane. JAL knew a guru outside of Poona named Siddharudh Swami of Hubli, reported to be a Sadguru, who he would occasionally visit. JAL would scoff at those who believed his brother should be respected spiritually. One day Merwan Seth took JAL aside and looked at him in the eyes and said, "My brother, I am God." JAL burst out laughing and mockingly exclaimed, "You, God? Merog, you are no one but a madman. What have you said? How can a man be God?" "Believe me, brother, I am truly God," replied Merwan. Brazenly, JAL retorted, "This is nonsense. I don't believe a word you say, Merog." Then JAL challenged his elder brother, "If you are God, you must have powers. Prove it. Prove to me that you are God." Merwan and Seth, they use, is a term of respect. He got that name from some people. It just means respectfully. His name is Merwan, but the S-E-T-H they put on sort of his first name as sort of a, like, respectfully, we think of you. So that in this part of the book he's called that, and later on you won't see that in the later part of the story. This is the period when he's called Merwan Seth. Merwan Seth agreed to the challenge and said, "I will place a burning coal on the palm of your hand, JAL, but you won't feel pain. Do you agree to let me do this?" JAL arrogantly replied, "I am quite prepared. Let me see what sort of God you are." Then he added, "If my hand burns and I feel pain, your delusions will be shattered once and for all. I don't want to ever hear you repeat that you are God." Merwan Seth smiled and went inside the house and brought out a red-hot coal from the kitchen fire. He placed it on JAL's palm. The skin started to burn, but JAL did not feel any pain. He stared at his hand in amazement. Their mother was in front of the house and started to smell something burning. When she came to the back of the house and saw what was happening, she screamed, "Have you two both gone mad? What do you think you're doing?" Scolding Merwan, she tried to remove the coal, but it was embedded in JAL's hand. By the time she finally removed it, all of the flesh of JAL's palm was deeply burned. The burn was extremely serious, and after Shireen arrived, the pain came into JAL's mind. It was excruciating, and he fainted. Merwan Seth rushed his brother to the hospital for treatment. That's a very sensitive part of your palm. JAL was hospitalized for several days, and Merwan Seth personally took care of his brother. JAL's heart was profoundly touched by the love his brother showered on him. Later he confessed, "Merog, my ego is smashed. You are truly God. I was a fool to doubt you. Forgive me, brother."
He was a wonderful.
Mysteriously,
We both met him.
yeah,
Oh,
he was JAL,
Yeah.
Baba's brother, very mischievous character.
Oh, he
there's
was
a picture of him when he was
He was
young.
dramatic. He'd go, he says, "We're all frogs in the well of illusion."
Or he'd say, "You know how you spray for insects?" He says, "Fill up that insecticide spray with Baba's love and go back to the West and spray into each other's heart love of Baba." He always had this.
You don't feel any pain?
He didn't feel any pain until
the mother came.
and sort of like, screamed. He wasn't feeling any pain. In other words, it said the burn was extremely serious, and after Shireen arrived, the pain came into JAL's mind.
Because she reacted.
Yeah, she reacted. That was without her reaction, he didn't feel anything.
Did his mom know he was God?
I think
She
later,
didn't accept it.
she knew he was a
Hey.
master,
Yeah.
but she didn't think he was God.
She went after his master. She went to her and said, "Give me my son back."
And she says, "What are you doing with him?" Because
Yeah, what are you doing?
because Baba had the
ruining his
5
life.
perfect masters.
Yeah. How dare you take my son? This is fascinating. Wow.
How did he find out who he was?
He was, Baba Jan kissed him, and the veil was lifted. God realized, and then it took him years, 7 years, to get back down to our gross consciousness so he could do his work. So I guess it's always that way.
You met his brother.
Yeah.
Is he dead now?
Yeah.
Yeah, his brother died in the 80s, early 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or mid-80s.
I only met him once, so no, I think he died. He died before I got back there in December of '81.
Oh, so it was
I think he died
late
like
70s or 80, yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Anyway, mysteriously, when Merwan Seth visited Jal in the hospital, the pain in Jal's hand would completely go away when Merwan came in. But as soon as Merwan Seth left, the excruciating pain would return to its full intensity. Later, when Jal's wound healed, he would show his hand to new people coming into Merwan Seth's contact, narrating every detail of the event that made him realize that his brother was indeed God in human form. During 1919, Gustaji, Slamson, and Nervous, these are various men, disciples of Baba, they were given, some of these were given names like Nervous, were managing the toddy shop. The toddy shop was a place where Baba's father owned, it's like a tea shop, but it serves toddy, snacks, tea. Toddy is a palm leaf liquor made from palm leaves.
Have you tasted?
Hot toddy, yeah, it was like a hot toddy for the body.
Have you tasted toddy?
I've never had toddy. I'd like to maybe.
Yeah.
And Merwan Seth was involved in its business affairs. Yet he would oversee the work and make certain everything was spotlessly clean and that the toddy was brewed well. In November, Upasni Maharaj telegraphed Sadashiv to bring Merwan Seth to Sikori to join him on a trip to Benares. Sadashiv had returned with his family from Benares just 5 days before. He knew it would be difficult to again obtain permission from his uncle to leave his business affairs behind. Sadashiv was at a loss as to what to do, what Merwan Seth suggested as a plan. Sadashiv's apartment was on the 2nd floor of his toddy shop. Late one night, when the family was asleep, Sadashiv sneaked out of the house, met with Merwan Seth, and together went quickly to the railway station and caught the train to Sikori. Later, Sadashiv wrote his uncle informing him where he had gone and why. At Sikori, Sadashiv asked Upasni Maharaj why he was going to Benares. Upasni replied, "There will be a large gathering of Sai Baba's devotees there, and Sai Baba himself is going to preside." The answer surprised Sadashiv, who said, "How can Sai Baba preside over this occasion when he died more than a year ago?" Upasni Maharaj, however, did not answer. Upasni Maharaj left ahead of Merwan Seth and Sadashiv on a different train, although in Benares they stayed at the Mahadev Hindu temple with him. Preparations had started for the performance of Mahayagna, a great sacrificial fire. From all over India, thousands of devotees of Sai Baba were gathered, and there were 700 of Upasni Maharaj's followers surrounding him. 111 Hindu priests congregated to perform the great yagna, or ceremonial fire. The meals were specially prepared by Brahmins, but Merwan Seth and Sadashiv were instructed by Upasni Maharaj to oversee the food arrangements. Both would shop daily in the market and purchase all that was required for the large meals, the ceremonies, and the comforts of the thousands gathered. In the center of the large pandal, or tent, where the fire ceremony was to take place, a large painting of Sai Baba was hung in garland. When Sadashiv saw this spectacle, with Sai Baba's picture in the center, he realized why Upasni Maharaj had told him that Sai Baba would preside. The great ceremonial fire burned continually for 11 days. Then on the 12th day, a feast in honor of the Brahmins was held. By that time, 10 to 12,000 Brahmins had gathered. The food for all of them was ready before noon. But when the Brahmins sat down under the large pandal for their next meal and saw the painting of Sai Baba, some raised an uproar exclaiming, "We cannot join in a feast of a Muslim. Sai Baba was a Muslim." Upasni Maharaj, who was of Brahmin descent, prevailed upon them, saying, "Forget your religious prejudices and opinions and partake of the food. Believe me, Sai Baba was above religious distinction. He was for you Brahmins as well as for the Muslims." But the Brahmins would not listen, and even the Brahmanic priests who performed the Mahayagna joined their protests. Then Upasni Maharaj told the priest, "I promise to give every one of you dakshima of 15 rupees instead of 5 rupees. So now eat and enjoy the feast." But still they refused, continuing to vehemently object to the picture of a Muslim master, and shouted, "Take that painting down. Why is this yagna dedicated to him? Why is Sai Baba being honored in our temple? Take that painting down, then we will share in the feast. Otherwise, we will not eat." The pandemonium lasted for 2 hours. Upasni Maharaj could not persuade the Brahmins to share in the feast, and he refused to take the painting of Sai Baba down. At last Upasni Maharaj instructed all of his devotees to go to the banks of the Ganges River and to strike drums to call for the poor to gather there. Merwan Seth and Sadashiv, joined by Upasni Maharaj's several hundred devotees, served the food to the poor who gathered. Although nearly 50,000 poor people were fed, there was a considerable amount left over. Although nearly 15,000 poor people were fed, there was a considerable amount left over. Upasni Maharaj then directed, "Throw the remaining food into the river." This greatly shocked the Hindu priest, who saw bucket after bucket being flung into the river. They approached Upasni Maharaj and begged for his pardon, saying, "Great one, we are now ready to partake of the feast. Do not waste the food, forgive us." The Sadguru angrily retorted, "You call yourselves the Pundits of Kashi? What can I say about you, priest? There is nothing in Kashi for you, and there is no food either. I forgive you, but you will not partake of the feast. He, Sai Baba, who you call a Muslim, is the real Pundit." There's a footnote on Kashi here. I want to look what that is. Kashi is the ancient name for the city of Benares. When Gautama the Buddha resided in the city over 2,500 years ago, it was called Kashi. During modern times it is called Varanasi. Pundit is a learned priest or scholar of Hindu scriptures. Upasni himself was raised to be a scholar, and he was upset with the Brahmins because they were self-righteous and orthodox in their view of Sai Baba, and did not know that Sai was reared by a Hindu saint. In other words, they didn't realize that part of it. Upasni Maharaj then angrily sent the priest away and bade his 700 followers farewell. He then told Merwan Seth and Sadashi to go south to Jagannath Puri while he returned to Sikori. Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Arriving in Jagannath Puri, a city along the seacoast of eastern India, Merwan Seth and Sadashi found a dharmashala, a rest house in a temple. Seeing Merwan Seth wearing pants instead of a dhoti skirt and a kerchief tied around his head, the temple priest curiously asked Sadashi, "Who is this man? He does not appear to be a Hindu." In earnest, Sadashiv replied, "His name is Jagat Narayan, and he is a Puka, a pure Hindu. He has accompanied me from Benares, and we are going on pilgrimage to other holy places." The priest made no further inquiry and registered them in the records as Jagat Narayan and Sadashi Patel,
Who is
resident
that?
Poona. Baba.
Baba? Oh.
That was a name that they apparently
Gave him-
devised so he can get in these temples.
Yeah.
Jagat Narayan literally means the Lord of the universe. Little did the priest know who his guest really was. He was, in fact, Jagat Narayan, the Lord himself.
Hi.
Hello, Cheva.
Hey, Baba. Hi.
Because of Merwan Seth's appearance, it was inconceivable that anyone would mistake him for a Hindu. But this innocent priest did not object. The Lord stayed at his temple, meant only for Hindu pilgrims, to the good fortune of the priest. The priest served them food. After Sadashi and Merwan Seth went to the seashore to bathe, they then took darshan at the temple and gave a generous dakshina to the priest, taking a train west to Karagapur the following day. In Karagapur, Merwan Seth and Sadashi met some of Upasni Maharaj's devotees and visited the Harijan neighborhood where the untouchables lived. The disciples of Upasni Maharaj, led by Namdeo Mahar and his wife, welcomed Merwan Seth to their humble huts. They then departed for the city of Nagpur. While in Nagpur, Merwan Seth told Sadashi, "I am also connected with Tajuddin Baba. I want you to take 3 or 4 of Upasni Maharaj's devotees with you to Vaki Sharif and meet Tajuddin Baba. Take flowers and fruits to Taj. Give him my salutations, though I cannot go." However, when they reached Tajuddin's headquarters, they found that the Mohammedan master had departed just an hour before. Disappointed, they went back to Nagpur and explained this to Merwan Seth. The next day, Merwan Seth told Sadashi, "You must meet Tajuddin Baba. I am sending you again to Vaki Sharif, but this time leave an hour earlier so you don't miss him." But again, Tajuddin had just gone. For 4 days, Merwan Seth instructed them to go to Vaki Sharif, and each time Sadashif and the devotees of Upasni Maharaj missed Tajuddin by minutes. Each day they were sent earlier and earlier, but each time Tajuddin had slipped away ahead of their arrival. Finally, Sadashif complained to Merwan Seth of his unwillingness to go back again. It was a long Tonga ride of 18 kilometers each way. However, Merwan Seth insisted, "Go for a 5th time, and I assure you he will be there. Tajuddin will be waiting for you." This time he was there, and after Sadashiv and the others bowed to the Mohammedan master, Tajuddin inquired, "For 4 days you have been put to much trouble, but today I was waiting just for you to arrive. Do you know why I wasn't here?" Tajuddin, "Do you know why I wasn't here?" Tajuddin then showed them a photograph of Merwan Seth, remarking, "This heavenly rose was calling me for the past 4 days, but he was also sending you to me. Today the heavenly rose did not call me, so I am now able to meet you." Sadashiv was surprised to learn that each day Tajuddin had gone to Nagpur to visit with Merwan Seth while they were coming.
Yeah, where they're coming, yeah.
So there's a footnote to that. A similar incident remembered by Sadashiv regarding Tajuddin Baba occurred a few years later, after Meher Baba had set up his own ashram. Meher Baba sent 3 of his disciples, Ghani Musif, Valjifidar, and Sadashiv, to meet Tajuddin Baba, and upon meeting the 3 men, Tajuddin gave them each a photograph of Meher Baba, telling them in earnest, "I am giving you each a photograph of Meher to worship. He is the heavenly rose. He is greater than I. Only worship him. His photograph is worthy of worship." Then they bowed down and said prayers before Meher Baba's photograph in front of the Mohammedan perfect master, Tajuddin or Tajuddin Baba. Wow. Why don't we pick this up here, Debbie? After.
Oh, after.
That's good. Look at this. We're speaking of the heavenly rose. She did another one.
That's beautiful. Who
Isn't
did
that beautiful? Carolyn Parker.
Wow.
In her book of roses, she calls it, she dedicated it to the heavenly rose.
Wow.
Okay, shall I start?
Okay.
After meeting with Tajuddin Baba, Merwan Seth and Sadish left by train to see Apasni Maharaj at Sakori again, later returning to Poona after a month's journey. After they had been some days in Poona, Apasni Maharaj called Merwan Seth and Sadashiv to Sakori. From there they traveled together to Nasik. The Sadguru did not take any of his other devotees with them. The three of them walked the distance of 4 miles from the city of Nasik to a Hindu temple in the jungle forest called the Mahadin Temple, consecrated to the greatness of God, where they spent the night. The next day, Apasni Maharaj sent Sadashiv on an errand back to the city to buy some biscuits and snacks, while the Sadguru remained alone with Merwan Seth for the purpose of working to bring Merwan Seth further down from the divine consciousness to regain gross consciousness. By the time Sadashiv returned with the biscuits, it was dark. Apasni asked him, "Were you afraid of walking through the jungle?" Sadashiv replied, "Yes, I was somewhat frightened." Apasni remarked, "I was just behind you. There was nothing to be afraid of." Then the Sadguru's appearance changed and he became gloriously radiant, telling Sadashiv, "Remember this always. Merwan will make the whole world dance to his tune. If you hold to him, you will never have anything to fear." They again slept in the temple, and the next day Apasni Maharaj took the two to the village of Goalawadi, where they climbed the mountain of Borgad. There Apasni showed them the cave where he had sat for nearly a year, repeating God's name, fasting without food or water, long before he had met Sai Baba and had become God-realized. While the three sat in the cave, Merwan Seth composed and sang the following ghazal, dedicated to Apasni Maharaj. "O Master Apasni Maharaj, you are the divine beloved. O Master Apasni Maharaj, your love is reality. You neither ate nor slept until you found God. O Master Apasni Maharaj, you become all-loving God, Yezdan. You have the face of Allah. You have the form of Ram. O Master Apasni Maharaj, you are the image of brilliance. You are God incarnate, the Lord at each house. O Master Apasni Maharaj, you are an emperor of the 3 worlds. Huma is mad is your love, a beggar at your feet. O Master Apasni Maharaj, Huma entreats you to bestow your divine love on him."
Homa was the name Baba had. He's a code name. Baba's called Merwan Seth. I didn't get a chance to tell you the name. Paul. But when he was young, when all his friends around him sensed this spiritual feeling about him, so in respect they added the word Seth to his name. Merwan Irani was his name, but they called him Merwan Seth, S-E-T-H, because it's a sort of a sense of deep respect. And for a young man to be called that, and she was 19 at this time. This is his life story, this book, and this is the first volume. There's 22 volumes. And so we're in just the first volume, and we're towards the end of this first volume. And it's an amazing experience now. He's going through this phases where his chums from his youth, some of them are becoming his disciples, some of them are going different ways, but he's intertwining with these. He had 5 perfect masters. One of them is Apasni Maharaj, Sai Baba of Shirdi, Narayan Maharaj, Tajuddin Baba, that Muslim I was talking about, and Harzad Babajan, a woman. So he's now interconnecting. See, the story is at that point where he's interconnecting with some of these, and so it's written unbelievably beautifully by Balkal Shuri, one of Baba's disciples. So anyway.
Oh, good. That was good breakdown. They stayed the night in the cave, then descended the mountain and walked back to Nasik, where they immediately departed for Sakori. After one day in Sakori, Apasni Maharaj sent Merwan Seth and Sadashiv back to Poona. After the journeys with Upasni Maharaj, Merwan Seth withdrew from social contact except with a few close associates. Merwan Seth's individual human consciousness was gradually being reestablished in the gross world. This was a period of intense spiritual concentration and agony. During 1920, he would sometimes closet himself in a dark room on the second floor at Baramji's house in the area of the city called Kamtipura. There he would sit in the dark for days and nights without food or water. He would not allow anyone else inside the room, and when he emerged, he would appear exhausted, drenched in perspiration, as if having done some arduous labor. Merwan Seth's consciousness was merged in infinite bliss, but it was his spiritual duty to come down and regain consciousness of the gross world. This descent is excruciating for the God-realized individual's consciousness. Descends out of for the God-realized individual's consciousness descends out of the formless infinity into the worlds of countless forms and limitations, through the mental and subtle planes into the grossness of the world. Well, we know how gross the world is. I mean, it's like God, you know. I'll tell you. The material world or sphere of matter is gross, and it is commonly an experience of suffering and pain. All beings in the gross world suffer. There is no suffering in the God state. Merwan Seth had to become conscious of the grossest aspects of this world in order to function on the same level of human consciousness.
Hello, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
I just went for this one. Nobody else?
Yes.
Are they supposed to come, do you know?
Yeah, they're on their way.
Oh. How is the girl left? They left, yeah?
No, everybody's gone.
They're gone.
So right now, probably somewhere between Montreal and Newfoundland. They'll be arriving Frankfurt, 4 hours. So then they transfer plane Frankfurt. 7 people have gone to India at 3:30 today.
Shireen went too, Shireen too, Shireen.
8 people.
Shireen went?
We went together.
There's 9 people.
Not on the same plane.
Shireen went today?
9 people.
Yeah.
And Marnouche?
Yeah.
Oh.
9 people have gone.
Yeah.
My goodness, huh?
Yeah.
I tell you, I was, Jeff said to me this morning, he said, why don't you come? And I'll tell you, I have a passport, I don't have a visa.
Yeah, me too.
I almost felt like flying to San Francisco to the consulate and saying, here, I'll stay here all day, give you a visa.
You could get it overnight.
Yeah, you can
town
overnight
and country.
it. Especially if you pay a little money.
Maybe I go Thursday. I can take your passport.
You pay a little money. No, I can't go right now.
No, me. I am going Thursday.
Are you really?
You could have gone
No,
Thursday?
Indiana,
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco. Oh, you get your
You get a
passport.
visa.
I'd love to go, but I got to seat people. You know,
I'm going to get for 5
we do
years.
the Lakers seating and.
I understand the responsibilities. It's like,
I work for the Lakers, so we got to seat people in a couple of weeks.
and also Baba talks about, hey, Gus, Baba talks about, taking care of your responsibilities in the world. It's not like you go on a mountain and renounce everything, your family, your friend. No. The spiritual work is in the world, in your life, and making correct choices. I mean, that's what it's about. I want to go too, but I don't have the money to go because I'm really architecting a life for my daughter and myself right now. And my one of my closest friends is going, but I feel like she's my link and I'm the link, and we're all linking up, and not everybody can go.
Well, they may be there for a special time. If Mani,
That's right.
Baba's sister, dies, drops her body, she's right now very critical. They'll be there for that special occasion because it's very special to be there when somebody that close to the God-man passes on. When Mara passed on, everybody that was there, when they went to her, entombment, they said they were like, totally just in another place. The energy there is just unbelievable.
But I agree, I know, and I believe that through our links, that we will experience that too.
Yeah.
I really have no doubt
But
about
Mani
it.
may overcome this, though. Who knows? Because she's only, what, 78?
Yeah, but she's not conscious at all now.
Is that right? I didn't hear that.
Oh,
She's in a coma. That's
the
right.
latest word is that she's not conscious at all.
Yeah, the email came in on that.
Yeah.
She's
Are you
been going-
familiar with the family members? Or?
These folks have just been introduced to Baba through John Stout. They see John.
Oh, cool.
And so John invited them to come to the center, and this is the first time you've been here. It's
Oh,
great.
you've chosen a great time because
Yeah.
it's really a powerful time.
Yeah, and this is ongoing Wednesday night meetings. We read from this book. It's not as formal on a Wednesday night as it is on a regular Saturday night meetings. It's sort of just reading and discussion. And I tape record it for the future. I figure, while we're reading the book, somebody may be blind or maybe wants to listen to the readings here. They could have it taped.
That's right.
And I like to listen to it going to work.
I know, you get
We're
really...
playing it the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's significant that you're here because it's a very charged time when a Mandali member, like Jesus had, 12 disciples and Ramakrishna, Buddha, and Christ, they all have, they have their close
Inner
circle,
circle, yeah.
their inner circle. It's just how it's set up. And so when one passes, goes to infinite God and the beyond. I mean,
You know what Patty Thorne said about Mani?
What?
Baba said, you got one life left. What do you want to be?
She said a man.
She wants to be a man, and she says, I'm going to come back as a perfect master.
Perfect master. So we have an opportunity in another life or so to incarnate with her.
Because usually souls affiliated with a God-man have these special sanskars or impressions that they have to operate with in their given lifetime. They're really special. In other words, we all have impressions of earning money, being out there in the world. They have impressions of service to him. So they call them yoga sanskaras. It's a metaphysical type term. So Mani has those sanskaras, I'm sure. But apparently she has one more life, according to what we've heard. So we just think we'd be disciples of Mani.
We will. I'm sure we will be. I mean, you have these links.
Our next life or something. Maybe you'll be on another planet. Hey, how about that breakthrough today?
The one about Mars.
Yeah, they're great.
They had
They
had cellular.
They found a meteorite in Antarctica that they have traced to breaking off from Mars, and in the meteorite was a indentation of insect type life inside. Like a reptilian is somehow preserved.
Yeah.
And so NASA had these press conferences today, going out all day, sending people saying, like this guy from UCLA, scientist, was saying, folks, to explain it to you lay people, it's difficult. He says, let's use the Olympic grading system. 10 for absolutely certain, 9 for pretty certain, and so forth. He says it's 9. It's a 9. He says, I want to give you a 9 on this because, the newspaper people want to know. And it was pretty strong evidence that of course, Baba said that there's 3 planets that, I don't know if it's in our solar system or in the solar system. 3 planets are inhabited with human beings.
Oh, really?
The Earth is 50-50, 50% heart, 50% mind. There's another planet, 75% mind, 25% heart. And there's a third planet, 100% mind, which are human. They have human forms, but 100% mind. Can you imagine the technological advances they have?
Like Einstein was from the planet
Or Werner von Braun, when the missile theories came in the Second World War. This rocket scientist suddenly brought in this guided missile theory out of nowhere.
And
the Germans, the V missile, but the point is, he could have been from a 75-25 planet.
Right.
They're incarnated here. In other words, their souls. All souls are clamoring to be born on Earth because that's where God realization is the process begins.
Balance.
So, balance.
Heart.
The 50% mind, 50% heart thing. So, but Baba stated there, I don't know if the planets are in our solar system or in our universe.
In our universe.
I don't know. there's other galaxies, with suns and so.
Hi.
Hi.
So that's
Baba.
just human life. I'm sure there's other kind of.
Well, you
life
said
that's
there's
close.
18,000 worlds with life.
There's 18,000 worlds with life.
Yeah.
We're talking about all these discoveries, and Baba said there was 18,000 worlds in the universe with life, and he explained that 3 of them had human life. Earth is 50% mind, 50% heart, developed, spiritually.
Right.
We're speaking of the spiritual point of view. There's one planet, 100% mind. They're human forms, but they're probably brilliant. And then there's 75% mind, 25% heart. I'd like to meet those people. The least I could say,
I know.
hello, how are you? I'm okay.
Yeah.
But if you meet the guys,
Yeah.
he is contaminated. Eliminate. I mean, think of it. They're 100% mind. They would say,
You say
stink.
something, and you go up and say, oh, why don't you get balanced? Have a heart.
Just think, though, you could not at all reason with those. I mean, they're 100% mind.
I thought it was 75% mind.
No, there's one.
Yeah,
There's
I
3
heard
planets.
that.
One is us, 50-50, 75-25, and 100% planet. I'd like to visit that 100% mind. I bet you they got sleek stuff, and kind of modern.
Maybe that's why they come here and take all these people.
Yeah, but they might
don't
not
understand
let
the
you
heart
in.
thing, and they're
They don't want to touch
They
it.
probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
But just think, you could not at all do anything with them. Their heart wasn't developed. But I don't know, maybe love still could conquer it. That'd be a challenge, wouldn't it? Go to 100% minder if they.
Well, they would probably find it curious to see heart, love.
Well, they probably
Intellectually
have.
be like,
Oh, just like one of those
this,
Star
you know.
Trek
Like
episodes
we have
where
heart attacks, I have a
Captain
mind
Kirk
attack.
meets
Oh my
the-
God, I'm having a mind attack.
Oh, mind attack?
Well, you know something? Captain Kirk, remember his alter ego? He met that part of him?
Yeah.
Remember, he was very passive, and there was this part of him,
Yeah, right.
you weakling, remember? Anyway, that was pretty beyond its time, that writing, wasn't it great?
Yeah, it was
But
good.
anyway, it's sort of a historic day in in life of human beings that science has admitted.
It's true.
There's wow.
There's lots of
Confirmation.
other planets.
Oh, every time I hear a bell, an angel gets his wings.
Because had they admitted that we've had aliens.
What? Well, no. Well, I think the government and the higher authorities have known
Oh, yeah.
something for years. They were just trying to keep it from the masses until a certain time. Maybe they feel now is a great time to announce it. You know that Scallion, that psychic?
Yeah, what did
He
he
said
say?
1996
What
is
did-
when the world would get a message that life exists somewhere else. So,
Yeah, that's right. We just
did John tell you about him?
No.
Yeah, I heard that from John.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he told me about Scallion. His son picked up some of his tapes. He's an engineer who became a psychic. And he described that in 96, he said there would be the first publicity of life exists outside our, in somewhere else. I don't know. The thing is, from my studies in metaphysics, Mars was inhabited previously. What they're seeing is remnants. Venus was inhabited previously. Mercury was inhabited previously. There was a planet that no longer exists, is now probably asteroid,
That
cinder.
makes its rounds kind of thing.
Was Vulcan.
Until you just kind of destroy the Earth
Yeah,
and you
that
move on
was
to the next one.
right. The Earth has probably a couple million years or whatever. I don't know how many hundreds of millions of years left, and then after that's finished, then there'll be another planet.
Well,
that'll be-
but the Earth is, it is said, Baba said that in the subtle plane there always exists an Earth.
right,
Because
a planet
because
equivalent
the Earth is the own point. The creation point is from the Earth only. So the moon has been an Earth before. Yeah. So when this planet goes through its process, another planet will come, like through the subtle plane, that will be Earth again as the creation point. It has to. It has to be.
Yeah, they need a creation point and a gross.
And it has to be in this realm and everything. So it continues.
But you think of the vastness of the universe. When you think of distances where they say it's light years, millions of light years away, or thousands of light years. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. But just think, if you're on a subtle plane, you could be there. Because the subtle plane is not limited by gross travel.
There's Baba talks about the gross plane, the mental plane, and the subtle plane.
Are you familiar with that? Well, and a lot of studies, like, I don't know, self-realization, they describe 7 planes of consciousness, The seventh plane is God realized. Sixth plane is sainthood with illumination. Fifth plane is, well, let's see, the fifth plane is where you get to feel, you sense, you feel, and sixth plane is you see God in everything. First is you feel. The fourth plane is all power. That's in Christian metaphysics, they call it the dark night of the soul, because you have all this power, and if you misuse it, abuse it, you like try to destroy things and cheat, you can be short-circuited and go back all the way down the evolutionary cycle to stone form. In other words, you come from the stone form through all the plant and vegetable and all these other kingdoms and insect, worms, fish, bird, animals, humans. Yeah, 840,000 births and deaths maybe as human being, and you're at that fourth plane. But usually at that time, you have a guide. Somebody will guide you. But then on the third plane is the plane of like miracles and powers. And Beethoven was on second, I think.
Well, one sound and
sound.
Sound and sense of smell.
Smell. Beethoven though had no deaf. I like to say deaf because my grandfather used to say, "Are you deaf?" I used to like it. No, but he didn't hear through the physical organ. He was in the subtle plane. The subtle plane is full of celestial music, the power of what's happening. Like you look through a prism, sometimes you see all the rays of light, things happening. Also, did you see that show on PBS the other night on lightning? Oh, was that wonderful! There's the Earth itself is either electrons or the lightning. It's like fields. The Earth is like a total field for the lightning. Lightning does this, comes to Earth, and it shoots back up to make the light. Anyway, it's a big story.
It shoots back up too?
Yeah, in other words, that's what makes the lightning. The connection from here to a point on Earth, and then it transmits it back up.
Wow.
But anyway, it was an amazing story, but it described the power, but just think Beethoven was on a subtle plane, so he experienced that energy, and he didn't need the physical organ because he was hearing it, the inner sphere, sound and creation. And I say when you're on that level, you can actually hear that stuff.
Now, I had a dream once with Phyllis where I was feeling, I guess frustrated about my music or something at the time, and Phyllis, in this dream, it was a gathering of a lot of people, and Baba people, and she started playing the keyboard. Now, Phyllis is someone who met me here at Baba in the 50s. She was kind of our non-titular head, in a sense, here, and she died several years ago. But she was very inspired, and she also happened to be very psychic.
She's a toy designer for Mattel.
Although she wouldn't, although she wouldn't use her, she was very psychic. Incredible, but she wouldn't use it to do anything. As sometimes she'd give you a glimmer, she'd tell you about something that would be a bet. She wouldn't use it ever, really. I mean, she had all this information. But anyway, so here she was in this dream, playing this piano, and I'm thinking, wow, Phyllis can play a piano. I can do anything because I can do this, I can do that, But it was like interesting. And then she came and she cleaned my ear with a Q-tip, and I'm thinking, no, because I'm a singer, I don't want Q-tips in my ear. I don't like what they do to the ear. But at the same time, I felt like she was cleaning my ear to help me really hear.
Oh.
And I really meant, and music.
Ah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was like so that she would it was helping me open up. So that goes with saying like that the celestial, hearing the inspiration coming from that place,
Definitely.
It was interesting, and she, I had a relationship, we all did, that are here, and we feel her close to us, You know how it is, like if you have like a relative or someone that you're close to, and they pass on, you get help from them, you feel the help from them.
Well, she was like our mother confessor,
a
person that kept the whole group going, when we just started being here in '77, and even previous to that, at other sites, we had a site in Hermosa Beach, and one in Pasadena. And without her, I think, being our mentor,
really?
Somebody you could lean on, people would call her with problems, and she would always have advice.
A hotline.
A hotline.
But mainly she would give instruction in terms of positively living your life spiritually through Baba.
Yeah.
She'd empathize, but she'd give good.
She was very young at heart and contemporary. She was, I think, in her early 70s when she died, but she always would give you a feeling like she used the word far out, and she talked along the lines of what the contemporary people were into, you know. I mean, I never thought of Phyllis as being, you know, old.
Well, but generally too, you will find people that are more spiritually evolved are going to be more. They're more childlike, and they look younger when they're older, and all these things. You know, I'm sure you know people like that. You know, and it's true.
She was psychic. Remember the story she told when she was in a New York City apartment, and she, I don't know, was just sort of fooling around and left her body and saw her body on the sofa laying down, and there was a knock on her door by somebody, and she tried to get back in her body, and she couldn't at that time because of something wherever, you know, she was fooling around. So she went to somebody, and somebody warned her, please don't fool around with that stuff, you know. You're naturally gifted as psychic. Don't fool around. You could be locked out of your body and you die then, probably, you know, because you don't get back in your body in time, whatever. But she was amazing. I remember the one story she told about she could see auras. I always was a little self-conscious of that because, you know, at the time I was reading Playboy and and going to, you know, all kinds
So she'd see the aura of your lust.
Well, I'm saying,
you know,
that's
right? I know, like we don't have lust.
I come around
you know.
and I go like this. But anyway, she'd see auras, but she worked at Mattel Toys, and this is a story related to me, so I'm just conveying it. That she saw this toy designers, they were going to a meeting. It was a mechanical toy that had some kind of a wheel that was run by a motor being tested. And she saw him walking to the room, and this guy was a physically fit guy, a jogger. She looked at him just at a glance, and no aura. He didn't have an aura around him. That means your cards are over. You played your deck. So he goes into this product meeting. The machine is running, and there's a breakdown, and a piece of shrapnel flies from the propeller of this and goes right through his heart. And the point of it was, I mean, you know, it was a freak accident, but I mean, it was of course called an accident. But the thing is, when you think about it, though, it's basically, I guess, when your time is up, when your sanskaras are finished, no matter where you are or whatever you are, something, you know, you're done. You're done with this body. It's time to ship out, time to leave. In other words, that's why I think maybe some infants are born and live only maybe months or a year or two, because that's all they had to do is go through the birth process. And
Merwan.
Yeah, well, we had a little baby. So wow, he died in crib. What do they call it?
21 months.
Crib death.
Well, he had a heart virus, but his mother dropped him off at daycare for the first time, and she came back and he was dead.
Baby.
Oh, yeah.
But he'd been ill with a cold, but it turned into a virus or something into his heart, and 18 months old,
I mean,
gone.
and he was such a sweetheart.
He really special.
And everybody just couldn't believe it because it was so sudden. But those are things, you know, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun.
Well, it's good. You get some background then on, you know, a little bit. That's helpful. Maybe it's not so helpful. We don't know. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Let me see where I went. Well, here we go. Okay, the material world or sphere of matter is gross, and it is commonly, I'm repeating just to get us back on track here a little bit from the book, commonly an experience of suffering and pain. All beings in the gross world suffer. There is no suffering in the God state. Merwan Seth had to become conscious of the grossest aspects of the world in order to function on the same level of human consciousness. During this strange period, one day Merwan Seth's inner suffering was excruciating, and he approached a street sweeper named Bahadur, who cleaned the gutters of human excrement for the municipality. Merwan Seth unexpectedly requested a bucket of excrement, and although Bahadur respected Merwan Seth had to become conscious of the grossest aspects of this world in order to function on the same level of human consciousness. During this strange period, one day Merwan Seth's inner suffering was excruciating, and he approached a street sweeper named Bahadur, who cleaned the gutters of human excrement for the municipality. Merwan Seth unexpectedly requested a bucket of excrement, and although Bahadur respectfully, "I will," objected, Merwan Seth insisted. Bahadur hesitatingly gave it to him. Jai Baba Adele.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. I
Wow.
wish I could join you.
Oh, you can join us while you're working.
This is Adele.
You can listen while we're working.
We're going with the green sun. Be working.
Yeah.
Listen while we work.
Sure, you can listen while you work.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
Robin.
Listen while you work.
I love your T-shirt, Will.
Oh, it's beautiful, Will.
Oh,
Do you have a new
By the
one?
way, I'm sorry, your name again?
Paul.
Paul and...
Robin.
Oh, yeah, Adele met Baba, Adele Wolkin, and Adele was good friends with Phyllis, who we were talking about.
Yes, it's quite an experience.
I found your how are you?
Oh, yes, she was in that film at the airport. Opa Vardiger, remember you're at the airport?
Oh, and she's still looking
And she
like
still
this.
looks that young, youthful Adele. Remember in Opa Vardiger, you're right at the airport?
Oh, yeah, yes, on that film.
Oh, do you need help setting the table up? I'll help you. We'll set it up here while you guys work. You can continue reading.
All right.
No,
Today was not
just
tomorrow.
continue.
Yeah, no, we'll continue.
Do it on the floor, too.
No, I didn't give him today. They
No,
want to put the table.
we could do it on the
On the
floor.
floor, okay.
A lot of
You
activities
don't need
here.
the table, okay.
No big production.
They don't need the table.
Okay.
They're doing a mailing, eh?
Inconspicuously, Merwan Seth took it to the room at the Haramji's and locked himself inside the whole night.
He took the feces with
He
it?
took the excrement in the bucket. The following morning, when he emerged, Merwan Seth was completely covered with excrement. He had apparently rubbed it all over his body. It had dried, and he could barely move. Merwan Seth shouted for Baramji and Syed Sahib, who were aghast at his condition. He instructed them to boil pails of water and give him a bath, and they applied fragrant oils and antiseptics, carefully bathing him for several hours.
Wow.
Merwan Seth expressed how pleased he was with Bahadur's obedience. The sweeper later narrated the incident to Baramji. This lowly sweeper became very devoted to Merwan Seth thereafter. Through Merwan Seth's influence, Bahadur, an illiterate sweeper, became a poet and dedicated all of his poetry to Merwan Seth, who would find pleasure in Bahadur's efforts.
Wow.
From excrement to poetry.
Oh, that's beautiful. What a beautiful story.
He obeyed, you know. He just,
Oh.
yeah. This incident of Merwan Seth covering himself with human waste can only be understood in relation to the process of his suffering in coming down to gross consciousness. Upasni Maharaj did similar astounding acts of self-effacement by bathing a leper and drinking the bathwater, sweeping the gutters of streets like Bahadur, mixing excrement with his food, and even caressing a dead horse while vultures devoured the carcass. Such strange actions are only explicable in relation to the excruciating process of coming back down into creation after one has become God-realized. Now here's one of the pictures of Baba during the 1920s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Baba. Oh, Baba.
You good?
Oh, Baba. Oh, Baba.
Baba.
Baba, Baba.
You know,
Oh, Baba. Oh, Baba.
Oh, Baba.
Oh, Baba. Hey. Oh, Baba. Oh, Baba.
This all got a hummer for it.
I know. Well, later in 1920, Merwan Seth told Syed Sahib, "I wish to remain in a secluded place without the slightest disturbance. Can you find me such a place? Syed Sahib suggested a few remote places, but Merwan Seth did not approve of any of them. At last Merwan Seth told Syed, I have chosen the cave near Nasik where Apasni Maharaj had fasted for almost a year. I want you to go with me. Syed agreed. They took a train to Nasik and walked through the jungle to the village of Gavalawadi, where they climbed the Borgad mountain and found the cave that Apasni Maharaj had shown Merwan Seth. Syed Sahib stayed along the mountain cliffs while Merwan Seth remained in the cave alone for 40 days and nights, like Jesus, similar. Fasting only on milk, which Syed would bring from the village each day. After the 40 days, Merwan Seth left the remote region and stayed at Syed's family house in Nasik, and while there, told him to telegraph all those in Poona, Sadasiv, Baramji, Gustaji, these are the people in Poona, to come to Nasik to be with him. Syed Sahib was profoundly impressed with Merwan Seth's great spiritual strength and attributes, and no longer liked the name Merwan Seth, thinking it sounded too ordinary. When all the Poona friends were gathered in Nasik, Syed brought up the topic of changing Merwan's title, right? Each man agreed, but what new name could they give Merwan? One of the men suggested Meru Baba, meaning the Great One, but that was not approved. After several other choices were suggested and rejected, Syed Sahib himself in the end proposed the name Meher Baba, meaning compassionate father. Immediately,
what does Syed look like?
It was
Is there a picture of him?
Syed, we don't know.
He's the guy I missed it, that Trivia Pursuit game out of.
I know, he'd be a good one. Did you miss him?
I missed it. I said Ramju. They said, who was the guy responsible for having Meher Baba's name, Meher Baba?
Oh.
And I said Ramju, but it's Sahih Sahib.
Yeah.
Fred, I asked one time for money, what your parents called Baba. She told me Meru.
Oh yeah, Merog.
Merog, yeah.
Merog, oh yeah, Merog was his name. M-E-R-O-G. I mean, he had many nicknames. Merog.
Mother and father was
Yeah, then his secret
Merog.
pen name was Huma, H-U-M-A.
All right, immediately the name was endorsed by all. Soon after, they returned to Poona, including Merwan Seth, now named Meher Baba. It seemed the whole purpose of the circle of men coming to Nasik was to choose the new name. From that day in 1920 onward, anyone who became intimately associated with Merwan Shariar Irani called him Meher Baba.
So it was 1920. What date was it?
1920.
This is 1920.
He's saying 1920.
It was 1920 though.
Later in 1920.
Wow. So 1920 was the day.
Yeah. Would you like to read? Paul? Robin, you want to read it all?
Maybe.
I don't know if I can. I'll try.
Oh, we would help you. Why don't you read, and if anything you have to say, we'll
Want me to read?
We'll help. We'll help you. Yeah.
One thing, all those words are like real simple, sort of phonetic.
Oh.
You don't have to pronounce them right.
Okay.
Where did you choose?
At the top, right here.
Okay. Another Muslim who became intimately associated with Meher Baba was Abdul S. Ghani, whose family were neighbors of Merwan's family on Butler Street for almost 15 years. Ghani, as he was called, was a good friend of Merwan's while growing up. Ghani's father worked in the military accounts department of the government in Poona and was transferred to Calcutta. Later, during World War I, he took in France. The family, though, stayed in Poona during the course of the father's travels. Ghani and Merwan had been in the same classes together in high school and college. Since Merwan had quit college after his contract with Babajan, for over 7 years, Ghani had lost track of his friend. In the meantime, Ghani had finished college and had become a homeopathic doctor. He had married and moved to Bombay to manage a homeopathic dispensary. He was quite versatile and was also appointed an honorary magistrate.
You did great.
a munsif and would function as a subordinate judge in a small claims court in Bombay. Hence, he was officially known as Dr. Abdul Ghani Munsif. One day during 1920, Mayor Baba, as he was now officially called, was in Munshi Rahim's house with many Muslim friends who had gathered to meet with Mayor Baba. At this gathering, Dr. Ghani, who knew Munshi well, happened to come by his house on a casual visit. Seeing his boyhood friend after so many years, Dr. Ghani cried out, "Merwan, you are here. I thought you might have been dead all these years. Whatever happened to you, old friend?" Hearing this, Mayor Baba only smiled. However, the Muslims present did not like Ghani's familiar way of addressing their guru. Ghani glanced at those in the room and sensed their reproach. He started explaining, "Merwan is my old friend. We were on the same teams together when we played as boys. We were classmates at St. Vincent's High School and Deakin College. We lived in the same neighborhood." But Ghani's remarks fell upon deaf ears and their eyes scorned him. Munshi remarked with contempt, "A friend of the past is an awkward customer. Alas." By this he meant that an old friend is a bad client in business. Ghani was taken aback, thinking, "What did I do wrong? Is there something disrespectful in what I said? Why do these fellow Mohammedans misunderstand my intention? Why are they paying so much respect to Merwan?" Mayor Baba, however, intervened and broke the tension in the room. He had his old friend sit near him and talked affectionately, reminiscing about old times, remembering their boyhood pranks together. Mayor Baba ended by advising, "Ghani, you should visit me whenever you come back to Poona. I will always be happy to see you when you come back there." Shortly after Mayor Baba left, the group confronted Ghani, saying, "Don't you know who he is? How dare you talk that way in front of him? He is no ordinary man. He is Quatab, a Hazrat. He is connected with the Mohammed masters Babajan and Tajuddin Baba? Tajuddin Baba." They explained Mayor Baba's spiritual status, and each one described his inner experiences when in Mayor Baba's contact. Ghani apologized, though he did not understand what they meant. Later, Dr. Ghani would frequently visit Poona to see Mayor Baba, who would take him to Irani restaurant in Charbwandi opposite Babajan's seat. There, over cups of tea, Mayor Baba would initiate discussions on various topics, particularly politics, and ask probing questions of Ghani, who would always rely in a lengthy, roundabout way about the political situation in India. Ghani's complex explanations would have tired a normal man's mind, but Mayor Baba would patiently listen to Ghani's long-winding answers. During this period, though Ghani was deeply influenced by Mayor Baba and would spend his evenings in Munshi Rahman's, staying until late in the evening, Ghani had not yet acknowledged Mayor Baba as a spiritual master. Among all of Mayor Baba's friends in early disciplines, Ghani was considered the most intelligent and was even nicknamed Socrates because of the size of his head. However, this giant of an intellect was to bow at Mayor Baba's feet one day. A series of incidents was instrumental in deepening Ghani's faith in Mayor Baba. During 1920, Mayor Baba decided to visit Bombay for 3 or 4 days to see plays and movies. He told Bailey to come along to keep Ghani company. At first, Ghani had been reluctant to join, citing various excuses, but Baba soon disregarded each reason and Ghani agreed. It was soon during the monsoon season, and Poona had been dark and cloudy continuously for 4 days. In Kandala, is that correct?
Sounds good.
A village along the way to Bombay, it had rained continuously for a week. The sky remained overcast as the group boarded the train in Poona. As they passed the village of Telegon, Mayor Baba suddenly remarked to Ghani, "I don't think we will reach Bombay."
Keep going if you want.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, you're doing great.
You're doing good.
Very nice.
Thank you. Ghani was busy reading the newspaper and tauntingly remarked, What are you trying to say? What do you mean? The train is headed toward Bombay, and if you say it won't arrive there, you must be either a peer? Peer? Mohammedan saint who is master of the mind.
Peer.
Peer?
Yeah.
Peer.
Peter.
PIR.
Peer.
PIR.
PIR.
Is like a seer.
Kathy always says it different.
Yeah, Kathy's Muslim, so she knows the words.
She always gets the
Yeah, she
right.
called us Tajuddin. We were saying Tajuddin.
Yeah.
Or a madcap, and I know you're not a peer. Meher Baba replied, you have a bad habit of ridiculing everything one says. Listen to me. Not only do I think, but I positively know that we will not reach Bombay, and you will find out what I say is true. With amusement, Ghani replied, tell me, do you speak only concerning ourselves or for all the passengers as well? Meher Baba frowned in annoyance at Ghani and said, of course what I say applies to all. This train is not going to arrive in Bombay. Ghani jokingly retorted, perhaps not. Maybe it will proceed to Persia or Turkey. Bailey intervened, but Meher, if the train will not go to Bombay, then where will it go? For his companions, it was difficult to believe that the train would turn around after covering only a short distance, and there seemed to be no reason to do so. Ghani scoffed at Meher Baba's words. Nonsense. Meher Baba remained quiet in response to Ghani's cutting remarks. The Bailey prolonged the topic, saying, Ghani, Meher must have some sound reason for saying this. Why else would he say such a thing? Ghani again scoffed. You seem scoffed? Okay. Got it.
There's so many other words in the English.
You're pronouncing everything that you've never read before.
Right, now your native language is going out the window. You're having a lapse into a past life.
You seem to be an idiot also, don't you know that?
He called Baba an idiot?
No.
Who did he call an idiot?
Is he calling Baba an idiot?
No, Ghani again scoffed, right? I said
Yeah.
scoffed. You seem to be an idiot also. Don't you know that Meher was asleep when we left Telegon? Certainly not, Bailey retorted. He was deeply absorbed in his thoughts at the time. But what does your remark have to do with my question? Ghani irritably said, why not? If your brain was not full of sawdust, you would have been aware that it was after leaving Telegon that he spoke of such a ridiculous event. He was abruptly awakened. What he was talking about was only a dream he had, so it would be better if you just forget what Meher said. Meher Baba interrupted. Undoubtedly, you are right that I spoke of after leaving Telegon. I admit that, but I will tell you further that we will have to go back from Neral? Neral?
How's it spelled?
N-E-R-A-L?
Yeah.
Neral?
You've been there, Will?
No.
Oh.
Like what sounds.
Mara, please end this unpleasant conversation. Ghani burst forth, irritated, or else I'll have to accompany you to a lunatic asylum.
Oh.
Oh!
That's L.A.
We're the lunatic asylum here, our nickname.
Is it?
L.A. stands for lunatic asylum. This Babaji, the gentleman who authored this book, calls us affectionately, I love you guys in the lunatic asylum in L.A.
Bailey started thinking that Meher was purposely playing a trick on Ghani. Ghani agreed that to pass the time, Meher was indulging in a joke. The train arrived in Lanavila and went to Lanova and went to Kandala on schedule. Torrents of waterfalls from the Kandala hills were rushing into the valleys below with a roaring sound, while the lush green scenery was a beautiful and refreshing change from the city. The train steamed ahead, passing through the mountain tunnels, and arrived in the village of Karjat. Correct?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
There the two train engines pushing the train from behind disconnected, and the train then continued its course descending from Neral. By this time it was raining very hard and did not let up the entire way, but increased as the train approached Neral. Ghani and Bailey started wondering if perhaps the train might be delayed. As if disgusted with them, Mera Baba was sitting still, resting his head on the window pane. He had not said a word after their discussion and had not moved. He appeared dazed. Some of the passengers became restless and started moving about, but Bailey and Ghani paid no attention to them. After a long wait in Aral, they learned that between the villages of Hadalampur and Ambara, heavy rains had flooded the tracks, and it was now impossible for the train to proceed toward Bombay. Suddenly, the conductor announced that the train was going back to Poona. Upon hearing this, Gandhi became uncomfortable with irritation. As the train headed back, his mind became more and more irritated and disturbed. His mental condition was like one struck by insanity, and he stared at Mera Baba, as if longing for an answer or solution. Gandhi had called Mera mad, but now his state of mind was that of a madman. Bailey was so stupefied. Okay, neither man would utter a word. Neither man would utter a word. Mera Baba himself broke the tension by asking, "This is Naral, isn't it?" "Yes," Bailey replied. "It is the same Naral which has crushed our hopes out of a holiday in Bombay." "But why? What's the matter?" Mera asked, seemingly genuinely perplexed. What is there except what you know, You have foretold that the train would not proceed farther than Naral, and now you claim you don't know why," Bailey taunted. "To tell you the truth, I don't know anything else about it. I myself wonder why I should have predicted such a thing," Mera replied. Bailey, irritated by Mera's remarks, blurted out, "I cannot believe it. Like a peer, you foretold what was going to happen, but you could have not done so without some sound reason. You cannot tell us that you don't know why you predicted this." "Of course, what you say is true," Mera replied, and then continued, "but what I say is also true. It is beyond my comprehension how I could have foretold this. Thinking it over, I believe that it was not I who spoke, but someone else. It was some power whose medium I was that made me speak accordingly." Ghani, who had remained silent throughout this exchange, could not bear it any longer and interrupted. "Mera, you really make me wonder what kind of man who you are. I do not want to argue with you ever again. I request, though, that you do not predict such things ever again in my presence. I am now afraid of you and the power that is with you. I fold my hands in respect before you. I know now that you know everything, and I bow down to you." Oh. And here's some pictures. Mera Baba beside Dr. Ghani Munsif, seated Adi K. Irani, Ramju Kamrim Abdullah during 1923 in Bombay. This is him right here, right, Mera Baba?
Right.
Yeah. Ghani could get away with a lot. He was the one, he could say things. He got in fights with Baba. Yeah, is that him, Fred? Ghani to the right?
Yeah, that's Ghani.
He had that special privilege.
Really? I would just love them so much.
Yeah.
He was like the Doubting Thomas.
Yeah, but so faithful, so loyal.
That's right.
Okay. But where, I guess we could.
These pictures, oh my goodness, these pictures. Look at that picture of Mera.
Internet.
By the way, that was beautiful reading, Walter.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robin. Will, it's
These
Robin
pictures
and
are
Paul.
amazing.
Hi, Robin.
Pictures.
Hi.
That's Will. Will's an artist. He does
One of Mera?
so many different things. He's right now doing a series of, well, what is it? The 101 Names of God?
The 101 Names of God. And then Mera Baba made a prayer himself to God. And then it has 87 different names in it.
Yeah, he
So I'm doing that.
see that shirt. What is that shirt that you did? What does that say? What does that mean?
Well, this is during the year, different groups in different parts of the country have big gatherings. And this gathering was Mera Baba, and the theme was circus.
Oh,
So
and
then
where
they
was
asked-
that at?
That was in Georgia.
Oh,
The
so that
Southeast
was the
gathering.
theme. You did the shirts for the whole group.
They asked an artist to do the shirts and then also the backdrop on the stage.
Oh, great.
So I hand painted this, looking like this, but they're basically black.
Now, Will does all these cheerful, settings.
Like fearless.
He always,
Yeah,
he does-
fearless with this
yeah.
person like
See,
a dancer in legs and a skirt
I think we
going
got one of
over
those. I'll give you that prayer. You can take with you.
going over a
101
mountain. I love that.
Which one is the one we had someone in his hand? Yeah, the
Oh.
Baba's hand and
Yeah, like a person is in
Yeah.
God's hand.
God's
the man
hand.
is sitting here, cupped in his hand. Sort of like, something to do with love. I can't remember the name.
what was it?
All embracing.
All embracing.
Thank you,
yeah.
I needed that. I found out that the Aborigines, they communicate not out of their mouth, but when they're going in their walkabout through telepathy. Just silently they communicate. So we all helped me remember that name through telepathy,
Oh, okay.
like the Aborigines.
All right.
I couldn't remember which one the name was. All embracing, I couldn't remember, but you said it. So, anyway, and I do other things. Oh, I've been painting creation lately. How about that? Sort of a joyful, cheerful creation. All
I don't
creation.
have the 101 names of God in front of you. can have these as gifts.
Thank you.
And you do too.
But
I haven't been able to call you yet, but we'll talk, okay?
Fred, one of them was called
It's so
Baba.
lovely to
I got it.
I'm way too tired to read,
And almost
so
100 people come to that
wait,
opening.
I worked way too hard
Because I
today.
had 64 signed in the books, and there
So
were
I'm
more
afraid I
people
won't
that
be able to
didn't
get through it all,
sign
honestly.
in. I only got 4 RSVPs. Isn't that wild? Something like that, or 6 or something. I thought, oh well, we'll see.
David, that day to go to Baba, complete that and got
Where was this at? Top of the page?
Supposed to come to
You would
you,
have- you would have-
swear to God, complete that forgot. He had nothing to do with the war or something.
Well, it's
After when I know, oh my God, there's no mad.
it's still up if you want to go.
And I wasn't on that day you were there, everybody was
It was very fun. Shall we go on? Or
Okay.
is it time to end, or what?
Well, we could go on for another 15. Okay. Or you do one end.
I'm gonna leave, I need to leave here at like 5 after, where are we?
Well, we
Time-wise,
won't finish this. We'll finish next week.
8:56. Well, you wanna read for another, well, I know you like to read till 9:15.
Well, we have about another 24 pages, which be perfect for next week. Will be the last
Oh, well then,
week
you
on
wanna
this
just
chapter.
keep 24 and let the,
Well, why don't I go to this page?
okay, it's so pretty. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thus, after a horrendous journey, they found themselves back in Poona. Their Bombay excursion was cancelled, and they parted their separate ways. The railroad offered passengers the option of continuing on to Bombay via Doan and Manmad, but Meher Baba was no longer in the mood to travel. Bailey and Ghani had later conversed about the incident and were convinced that just to show them his spiritual power, Meher had purposely planned the whole affair. Their faith in his spiritual qualities and omniscience was enhanced from that day onward. Another Muslim who came into Meher Baba's contact was Abdul Karim Abdullah, later known as Ramju,
Oh, Ramju.
because he was born in the month of Ramzan in accordance with the Islamic calendar. In 1921, Ramju was a cloth merchant in Poona and met Meher Baba at a gathering of Mohammedans at Munshi Rahim's house. There's this fellow named Munshi Rahim.
his secretary. His name was Rahim.
This is somebody else, I think. 297, the footnotes. Isn't that funny? There is no footnote for that. It had a mark. However, Ramju did not have the opportunity of observing Meher Baba closely until later in the year, though at Munshi's house he was immediately attracted to Meher Baba's living flame, and, as he remarked, was curious to know more about this Irani saint. Two Irani sisters who also came into Meher Baba's contact during 1921 were Frani Noraj, driver, and Daulat Jangagir, Irani. Frani was a daily visitor to Harzad Babajan. It was in Babajan's presence that she first met Meher Baba and was drawn to him. Franey told her sister about both Babajan and Meher Baba and took Daulat to see Babajan one day. Another time, Franey took Daulat to meet Meher Baba at Sadashiv's house in Kasba Peth. A devotional singing program was being held, and after it was over, Franey introduced her sister to Meher Baba. Upon meeting Daulat, Meher Baba inquired, "Is there something you wish to ask?" But Daulat could not think of anything. Later, Meher Baba repeated, "Is there anything you wish to ask me?" Finally, she told him, "My daughter Piroja has been feeling ill and suffers from a loss of appetite. What should I do for her?" Meher Baba replied, "Take her to Udwada, where the fire of Zarathustra is kept, burning in the temple, and afterwards she will become all right." After a few minutes, Meher Baba again inquired, "Is there anything else you wish to ask?" Daulat remembered a woman who she knew who was still unmarried, though she was then almost 40 years old. She told Meher Baba about her, and he answered, "Take her to Udwada also." Having faith in Meher Baba, Daulat followed his instructions and took her daughter and the woman to Udwada. True to his words, her daughter recovered, but perhaps more surprising, when they returned to Poona, the woman was approached by a man who offered to marry her, and she accepted.
That's the nicest kind of a climax.
From the first,
Illnesses have a climax, you know, and in this case, that's quite a climax.
Yeah.
from the first meeting, both sisters, Franey and Daulat, had tremendous love and faith in Meher Baba, and their connection was extremely significant. Daulat, on Meher Baba's order, later maintained silence for many years, and her younger daughter became his chief woman's disciple. Meher Baba later gave Piroja a nickname, Franey. There's a footnote here on this chief woman disciple. The chief woman disciple of Meher Baba is Mera J. Irani. Her special relation is the same as Radha to Lord Krishna, and as Sita was to Lord Ram, and as Mary of Bethany was to Lord Jesus. Such a woman is the avatar's female counterpart and holds the highest position in the inner circle representing original Maya. Wow, what a footnote.
So Piroji was her first name originally?
What? No.
No, that's Franey. There's Mera, who became Baba's counterpart. And she dropped her body on May 20th, 1989. And there's 89.
And who's that, the daughter?
That's the daughters of Daulat, Mera and Piroja. That's Mera and Piroja. Piroja was Mera's sister.
And she's still living.
Piroja's still living? And then look at...
she was as of, I don't know.
And these are the parents of these children. Mera's parents. Handsome people, huh?
Yeah.
Or is she when I met
See Mera's parents?
Yeah, when I met Mary, because her purity and her quality is really just not, not, it's just, you don't relate it to the ordinary person at all. It was, it kind of disarms you totally. It disarms you because it makes you feel, as I remember, I felt that, first of all, Baba had told me to go and meet her. And so there she was with the beautiful sister and all the other, there were 6 women who came with him on 1952. It's the only trip they took ever to America.
To America.
Except,
to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Yeah.
There's a center in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
And
500 acres.
I felt so unworthy to even be next to any of them because, especially Mara. But it's not that they want you to feel that way, not at all. I mean, they're just so on your level, makes you feel that you are part of that family. And after a while, they really say so.
But as Fred was trying to point out, being the chief woman disciple was because of the fact that Baba said she had the purest heart in the world, that she was the purest of the pure. And he just said that time and again. No one loved him as purely as she did, because, she could even remember, if he had some pain or something, she would know that, to get pure reflection of that kind of pure love. Of course, they didn't was no physical love, you understand.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of physical contact. I saw her massage him when he had the accident. Oh, wait a minute, you're not finished.
No, that's okay. I'm enjoying.
Yeah, I just thought, because
I'm enjoying what you're saying.
What's your name?
Robin.
Robin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Robin. Robin seemed really interested in asking about the chief, a woman disciple. Well, actually, that's a strange way of putting it, isn't it? She's the counterpart, the feminine counterpart of the avatar.
In each avatar.
And as you have in that
feminine
footnote, of course, each avatar did have a feminine counterpart.
You got to meet him though, Merwan.
Yes.
How long did you get to spend with him?
In the beginning, I was waiting to meet Meher Baba for many years, over 8 years, and so when I did meet him, I had already pictures of him and some dreams of him, and certainly a lot of narrative from the disciples who had lived in India. Norina, Nadine. Are they mentioned in here?
Not yet.
No, this is volume 1.
He'll be mentioned as we...
Yeah, he had 3 major women disciples in this country, and he said his work in America would be done through women. Essentially, that is the spreading of his message of love and truth.
I better change.
No, no, but actually, there's a change in the emphasis on the role of women, because I think there has been a kind of role, the subordinate role, where they didn't feel that, as they seem to need to feel in this generation, that they can, in the best sense, be an equal companion with the man. That is, have enough in common that they are equal. They have different ways of expressing it, of course. And that's the way God wants it, but they have the opportunities to develop their own potentials so much more than it was a general world outlook, that Weltanschauung that I was born into was one where I felt like I had 4 brothers, but one had died, and I knew that my brothers could accomplish what they wanted to, and the family emphasis and the family backup was for them, not for me. I had to get a loan to go to college. So it wasn't easy. Debbie, what a shame that you're not staying now.
Oh, Baba's using me for a messenger tonight, Adele.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, a friend of mine, she's got a person in crisis, her grandmother's dying, and she's staying up, and so I'm going to go and be with her and just hang out.
Oh, great.
It's Baba's coming through.
You come to God Speaks meetings when you can.
Yeah, I come to these.
Oh,
these are the meetings I come to.
I like those meetings.
I
I'll
said
be right
goodbye
back.
to Tamara. I said goodbye to her.
Oh, you at the airport?
No, but I stopped at McGuire.
All
But I want to
7
come and
came.
visit you.
I went and tell them
her.
all.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Every Friday she has a get-together. She has a get-together at her house. Adele lives in Redondo Beach on
Pacific Coast Highway. Right near Palos Verdes, just on Pacific Coast Highway.
nice.
She usually
I
has
kind of
little
haven't-
cookies and people, she has treasures that are unbelievable. Photographs, items or owned by Baba and things
I
that were
really-
blessed and by Baba. She has this treasure, and she usually will tell you stories related to them because one little item could be a whole night's story. So
What was he like?
I just want to mention to Fred, I had meant to tell you something about one of his programs came off on my general area there. And those people got so interested, and the husband of Naja, well, of course, Kathy knows these people, and last week, he had failed his medical exam twice, and then he had a Baba hair and Baba photo, and he was absolutely determined to pass that. He was a very good physician in Iran, but he had
can't get his license.
He called out, he is so happy. He said, Baba was with me all the way.
He passed?
He passed. And he gives credit totally to Baba. He gives credit to the right person.
That's sweet of you. You're so generous, Adele. You really are. You're so generous with those items you have.
Oh, well.
My, oh, my.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, the fact is that when Billy was here, she said, I have a lot of hair, Adele, and it's because you gave it to me. And I said, how much did I give you? I want some of that back.
Well, this lady was visiting from New York.
No kidding. See, there was a time when I worked in India. I worked in India so I could be close to the center of activity. And there was one disciple called Khoshed who, she felt... Baba told her to kind of keep an eye on me. I was working in the hospital there. And she just did keep an eye on me. And she came and she gave me quite a lot of Baba's hair from the brushings. So I shared it. At that time, I shared it too liberally. I see that now. But now you asked about what was Baba like. Well, it is true that everybody experiences Baba. This is the way to know what he's like, is to have the inner meeting with him, and he will, if you want to have some further inner contact with him, it will happen. You have to really want it. I found him outwardly, when I first saw him, there was never an accident. He was about like that, wasn't he, Fred? About 30, I met him in 1952. And born in 1894, but he had no accident. He took upon himself, just as Jesus did, and just like all the avatars do, they lighten our burden, come unto me. And what is that saying that Jesus said, come unto me, I will carry your burden. In any case, that is a fact.
Leave all and follow me.
Leave all and follow me too, but he also said,
bring your burdens, bring your whatever your woes.
And that is a real fact.
Bring your burdens unto me, I will give you rest.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. And that's the experience that has happened when Baba said he had given many prophecies, so to speak, about the fact that his blood would touch American soil. He said that many, many years ago, that this country, needed that. And of course, we have, my memory of Baba was, when I first met him, was that it was someone who was very much like the Christ, he was going across a station there. I was looking down from a balcony, and Baba was going to the train, and and he had no accidents, and his hair was beautiful, and his disciples were with him, this whole entourage of disciples. And of course, when I first met him, though, actually, that was just observing him before he went to Myrtle Beach. But when I really met him, he was just like my mother and father in one. And then I looked at him, and it was just like I'm looking at my mother and father. But of course, with a tremendous difference. That his love was just immaculate and pure. Actually, I think we all need gauges, don't we? Like, how do I know I'm so short? It's because Fred's so tall, standing next to him. Or how do I know that, anything, duality is of course, that's what God brings out, is the cosmic plan. And the whole metaphysics is in there. That's the book. Baba says life is based on duality until it becomes one in him. But in the meantime, you know good from bad, you know hot from cold, by relatively understanding the opposites. So with these opposites, Baba had, he's just there, the warmth and the love and the whole ambience of his being is that you forget yourself because he's so much in you. And he makes you something that you don't feel you are. But that's the work of the God-man, to emphasize what's positive in you. Hello, Kennedy.
There's another gauge.
And
we were talking about gauges, that she's short, Fred's tall, and then you're taller.
Yeah, that's everything is indeed relative.
Remember how you spoke when you embraced Baba, you felt like he was light as a feather, like air?
I think most, I was 25 or so, not much. When I actually met Baba, I was a little older than that, just a few years older. But so there I was with my own background of experience, and some of it was experience that I felt was not anything to recommend me to anyone like the Christ and so pure. You become, not that Baba gives you a guilt complex, it's not that, but again it's this feeling that you get when you're in the presence of one who is the gauge. So there I knew, I said, within yourself, there's so much that has to unwind in terms of what Baba does explain to us. We have to unwind all of these accumulated stockpile of old sanskars. When you read God Speaks, you'll understand that. I felt she's asked me how I felt when I met Baba. So there I was with the feeling that it was a fulfillment. I'd waited 8 years. It was such a fulfillment to have his embrace. And his embrace was, as you indicate,